this edition of RPPV News. A further easing of restrictions, more hats in the political ring, and a last chance to give to those doing it tough. Hello, I'm Catie Sharp. Welcome to the latest edition of RPPV News, bringing you stories from across Frankston and the Mornington Peninsula. The state's Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton says nearly 500,000 Victorians are overdue for a COVID vaccine booster. People can get their booster shot 5 months from the date of their second dose, so book in for your boosters and let's keep everyone safe for Christmas celebrations. And as double vaccination rates for the state creep closer to 95%, there has been further easing of restrictions. People no longer need to show their vaccination status in shops, and those under 18 are no longer required to show their status at all. Masks stay on for now, while scientists understand the impacts of the new Omicron variant. There is also no need for COVID-exposed businesses to conduct deep cleans, after mounting evidence that the likelihood of becoming infected by touching a surface is very low risk. The rollout of vaccinations for 5 to 11-year-olds begins on the 10th of January. The political announcements keep coming. Watson Ward Councillor Paul Mercurio has now thrown his hat in the state politics ring and has won pre-selection to run as a Labor candidate for Hastings. He will continue with his council duties while campaigning. Meanwhile, the Mornington Peninsula Shire has resolved to disclose their CEO's salary in the interests of public transparency and accountability. Shire CEO John Baker told RPP he is comfortable revealing details of his $425,000 annual remuneration package.
I think it is important that ratepayers know how much the chief executive earns, and I was very comfortable in releasing my salary details to the people that pay my salary. And I need to make sure that I provide good value for money, and that I continue to make sure that we're securing significant levels of inward investment and that we're providing good value for money to our ratepayers.
Dr. Mark Fansett of the Peninsula Preservation Group has rejected claims that the organisation overstepped the mark in its 8-year campaign to halt the Ross Trust's extension of its quarrying operations on Arthur's Seat. Last week, when the Trust withdrew its plans, Chairman Jeremy Kirkwood was quoted as taking exception to the comments allegedly made about the Trust by the environmental group. Speaking on RPPFM's Peninsula Talks, Dr. Fansett dismissed the criticism.
Dangerous, threatening and vitriolic, I think are the words that Jeremy Kirkwood used about our group. Certainly not. We made every effort to be factual, not to be threatening, and indeed with this announcement, we're not condemning the Trust. We want to move forward from here. Obviously that response written by the trustees was perhaps written on the spur of the moment, and I don't think it's useful now to be being petulant like that and making those sorts of comments. So we're certainly not going to respond to those sorts of comments.
Due to the pandemic, there is currently a nationwide shortage of truck drivers. This has had a knock-on effect on the peninsula's recycling services. The Shire's contractor Solo says its drivers are all working to the maximum legal capacity, which means they will not be able to run the weekly recycling collection service that usually takes place over the summer. General waste will continue to be collected weekly, with the recycling and green waste collection alternating each fortnight. If you find that your recycling bins are full, the Shire is offering free disposal of excess household recycling at their resource recovery centres in Rye, Mornington and Tyab, or at the Hoppers in Sorrento, Dramana and Flinders. They hope to resume a weekly recycling service next summer. Frankston Dolphins CEO Adrian Lloyd says women's footy is revolutionising the game. The Dolphins will host the first AFLW women's match of the 2022 season, and Lloyd says it's the start of big things to come.
We see the women's footy is just going to absolutely take off. And for our footy club, it just increased the numbers of people, the parents, the partners, the involvement in our footy club just doubled when we got the women's side last year. And it was well supported.
As we enter the final week before Christmas, it's our last chance to keep the Christmas community spirit alive by donating to local giving trees. Red Hill District Lions have placed a 4-metre Christmas tree in the community park in the heart of Red Hill South. There is a donation box for toys and suitable gifts for those in our community who are doing it a bit tough after the year we've all had. In Frankston, the council is encouraging residents to support their local community by donating non-perishable food items to the Christmas giving tree in the Frankston Library. The treats, including mince pies and puddings, as well as quality pantry staples and decorations, will be included in hampers and then distributed at the Frankston Life Community Christmas Lunch for disadvantaged families and individuals in the community. A large crowd is expected to come together for the lunch, and more than 150 volunteers will roll up their sleeves to help out on the day. Please place your donations under the tree by the 22nd of December. And we have it on good authority from the elves themselves that Santa will be paying a visit to Mornington this week. On Monday, he will be taking part in the Christmas parade at 1 p.m. on Main Street, so go along and say hello. Santa will also be visiting Main Street on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday from 4 to 7 p.m. It's a good chance for your little ones to say hello to the jolly man and make sure he has their wish list right. And it's now over to the Bendigo Bank's David Robertson with the last of this year's market updates.
The new year approaches with a promising outlook for jobs and economic growth, but also the promise of rising interest rates. Our thoughts on the year ahead with our central forecasts and the most likely risks to consider. 2021 was a year where the effectiveness of fiscal and monetary policy shone through, driving unemployment down to 4.5% and GDP growth a record 9.5% last financial year, before the Delta strain briefly deferred the recovery in the third quarter. Thanks to high vaccination rates and borders now reopening, the recovery has resumed, evidenced by strong retail activity, a rise in consumer sentiment, and a resumption in jobs growth. As a result, our baseline forecast is for Australia's unemployment rate to fall to 4% in 2022, and for these tight labour markets to help wages growth back to almost 3%. So, as we talked about in last month's update, demand appears assured in the months ahead. However, the challenge will be supply being able to keep up. As we're seeing all around the world, inflation and producer prices are at multi-decade highs, with supply chain bottlenecks, elevated energy prices, especially in Europe, and a rush for materials as economies reopen. In the US, the Consumer Price Index has just reached 6.8%, its highest level in 40 years, and core inflation is 4.9%. So the Federal Reserve has dropped the word transitory and are now describing inflation as persistent, and 3 US rate hikes are now expected next year. Fortunately, here our CPI is less than half the US rate, and we only have 2.1% core inflation. But next year, we do expect core measures to trend towards the top end of the 2 to 3% target band. The RBA have removed their references to 2024 rate hikes and are now simply saying they will be patient, waiting for full employment to drive wages and inflation higher. But if our forecast of 4% unemployment next year is met, this should pave the way for RBA rate hikes by late 2022 into early 23, although the market is even less patient than this, pricing in policy rate rises by mid-next year. As long as this fall in unemployment and rise in inflation is hand in hand with wages growth and economic growth, then our economy can cope with higher interest rates. And our base case is for GDP to grow between 5 and 6% next year. The obvious risk to this forecast comes from the Omicron strain of COVID-19. Assuming vaccines and boosters are effective for the new strain or any other mutations ahead, then the recovery should remain on track, as household balance sheets are, compared to 2019 levels, in a very strong position. The pandemic has been destructive to a range of industries and has been indiscriminate in its impact, but fiscal policy and record low interest rates have, on balance, driven a wealth effect that will shape the 2022 recovery. Property prices continue to rise, not helping affordability, but helping consumer sentiment and business confidence. In summary, the outlook for next year is one of strong household demand, strong demand for labour, and firm commodity prices, all of which should see our economy maintain its resilience and its outperformance. The two most likely spoilers ahead might be inflation running ahead of RBA expectations, pushing interest rates higher sooner, or conversely, the Omicron strain delaying the reopening of borders. For the moment, 2022 has the promise of solid growth and demand, but a recognition of these upside and downside risks. And that's the market update from Bendigo Bank, with best wishes for the holiday season.
After the break, we go to Patricia with the coming week's weather report.
Established in 1988, Progress Signs has been servicing the local community for 30 years. Located on the Mornington Peninsula, they are the #1 destination for all your signage needs, specialising in a variety of signage from vehicles to shop fronts, occasional and corporate events, short-term, long-term and everything in between. If it's signs you need, be it large or small, Progress Signs is the place to call. Available 24/7 at progress-signs.com.au or call the team on 5975 9188. Thinking signs? Think Progress Signs, a station sponsor.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
Hello, I'm Patricia and welcome to this week's RPPV Mornington Peninsula 7-day weather forecast. Today we are in Frankston to visit the city's much loved 100-year-old Norfolk pine Christmas tree. Frankston Mayor Cornwall said that Frankston City is set to glow this Christmas, including carols at the Frankston Football Oval starting at 5:30 tonight. Let's now turn our focus to this week's weather, leading us up to Christmas Day. Today, Saturday the 18th of December, brings us a partly cloudy day and a bit of a cool change after yesterday's 30-plus stunning summer's day. However, today we will reach a top of 28 and a low of 14. Sunday sees showers returning and the wind picking up during an overall cloudy day. Expect a top of 23 and a low of 13. Monday brings back some of that warmth that we experienced early last week, with some scattered clouds bringing us a low of 11 and a high of 24. Tuesday and the rest of the week sees much the same as Monday. Expect a warm, cloudy day bringing a low of 13 and a high of 22. Wednesday, the 22nd of December, sees light winds becoming southerly 15 to 20 kilometers an hour during the day. Look for a low of 12 and a high of 21. Thursday sees the temperatures remain consistent with mostly a cloudy day across the peninsula. Expect to feel a low of 11 and a high of 21. Friday sees the clouds thinning to produce a mostly sunny day. We should feel a low of 12 and a top of 25. And finally, Saturday, the 25th of December, Christmas Day, we should experience a mostly sunny day with a low of 13 and a top of 29. Let's now look at this week's fire hazard information for the Mornington Peninsula. This week sees the fire danger level on the peninsula as low to moderate. The UV index this week is predicted to reach 10, very high, so sun protection is recommended from 9 a.m. to 5:20 p.m. each day. Well, that's all for this week and for this year. On the behalf of Nicolas, the RPPV crew, and myself, we would like to thank you for all your support during 2021, and we wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas and the very best of the festive season. Have a great holiday and remember to continue to be kind, patient and understanding with each other. And until we see you again in 2022, please take good care.
And to our surf guru Muzz with the surf report.
Good morning, it's Muzz here with this week's Mornington Peninsula Surf Report. Like this next week in front of us, Santa is going to come through with the goods for a couple of days here. Towards the middle of next week, probably Monday, Tuesday and definitely Wednesday, we're going to get a fairly large swell. Wind won't be great. It looks like maybe Monday they might be westerly, but the rest of the time looks like they're in southwest, so it may be a little average wind conditions, but the swell is going to be large. Expect to be surfing Western Port Bay Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. In the forecast offshore-wise, Saturday looks okay. It will be a mixed variety of waves. It'll be solid on the beaches, but not too big. So you might get a wave and quite a decent bank down there. Otherwise, it'll be winded, maybe small Western Port Bays with beginners. There's a lot of those around at the moment. And it looks like the forecast for Christmas Day is pretty good at the moment. It's going to be 30 degrees offshore. So you crew who like to have your pre-Christmas lunch surf, that should be on the cards this year. So that could be always good. Although that once uncrowded day is now pretty hectic in the morning. So should be back next week. Enjoy the run into Christmas, guys. Be nice to each other. It's nuts on the road and not so friendly, and probably not so friendly in the water. So enjoy. Should be able to get in the water a couple of times in the next week with a variety of conditions. So enjoy. Thanks, Santa, for the swell Christmas present.
And that's all from our team here at RPPV News, serving the community with stories that matter to you. Keep watching and do tell your friends. This is our final news bulletin for the year, as we'll be taking a well-earned rest over the holiday period. We wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season and a much less newsworthy 2022. Bringing you the news from coast to coast across Frankston and the Mornington Peninsula, I'm Catie Sharp. See you next year.